Thank you. Other interesting cultural news, you have tech political donations data showing major bias. Well, this isn't so much news since I think a lot of us suspected this for decades or years. But here's some specific analytics around the recent 2020 election, or relatively recent, it's in our lifetime. It comes from End Wokeness, and they got 27.5 million views and 48,000 likes, which is quite a few to say the least. And that was after 48 hours, so it had time to brew. I was going to say pun intended, but we're not talking about Bud Light, so not apt in this case, or really. But nevertheless, so End Wokeness says, quote, Google, 13,168 employees donated to Democrats in 2020. 368 donated to the GOP. Which, that's, I mean, I'm not too surprised about that figure given the Google bias and how the interaction is with the product and what we see every day. But geez, let's get a good old-fashioned calculator out here for a New York minute and see what does that break down to a percentage. So 368 plus 13,168. I know public schools are all-time low for pretty much every testing score. Although the unions, the teachers' unions say they deserve more money, fascinatingly enough. But nevertheless, we're going to do a little math here today. So we're going to add those two numbers. So that means 13,536 employees donated in 2020 at Google. So let's do, there's a 13,536, so 368 divided by 13,568. That means 0.0271 of the Google donations went to GOP. So let's do that. Let's turn it into a percentage, which, fun little fact for math, which you might not know if you go into public school, you just multiply it by 100. That means of all the donations made from Google employees to politicians, 2.71% went to people in GOP. So not much diversity at Google in terms of thoughts or politics. Are we surprised? Not really, but it's fascinating to see the specific metrics. Now, Apple had 4,134 employees donate to Democrats in 2020 and 276 to the GOP, which, sounds about right for Apple. You have Meta, which everyone really just calls Facebook still. I'm actually surprised they have the least amount of donations. So Google had 13, granted, those companies are also larger. Now, Meta had 3,958 employees donate to Democrats in 2020, 464 donated to the GOP. So they break it down. They say in 2022, a whopping 99.73 of Twitter employees donated to Democrats, which I was going to say, given the old Twitter, it actually sounds low. I'm surprised it wasn't 99.9999989%. Now, and Wokeness continues saying, quote, this is an existential crisis for humanity, especially now with powerful AI models constantly advancing and taking over, unquote. Which, yeah, it certainly is. I'm not sure I see much of a solution since startups in tech are pretty, in terms of having the astronomical impact that those companies have, the startups that are really going to compete with them are pretty much non-existent. You could perhaps argue that Twitter is a competitor to Facebook, but that also was more like a hostile takeover. Elon Musk bought the company. That wasn't something that was brewed from the ground up. We see an overwhelming majority of those fail on average. Now, I suspect most people in comments will probably agree with this statement from End Wokeness because, again, it's clearly a huge political bias. It's nowhere even close to 50-50. It's, overwhelmingly weighted. But let's go to the comments. Maybe everyone doesn't care and maybe some people are truly surprised. Probably not, but let's dive in. And Wokeness responded saying, here are the sources, and it's from ActBlue, tracking Twitter donations, and also tracked, Alphabet, Amazon. Yeah, spoiler alert, they're all overwhelming for Democrats. Now, the first comments comes from Paul Zazupa saying, quote, big tech is run by the left and they're interfering with U.S. elections. Zuckerberg even donated hundreds of millions of dollars to cheat for the Democrats in 2022. The interference is blatant and it's happening on every platform except X. That's why they're trying to destroy X. That got 4.5 thousand likes. And specifically, I believe, not Elon, I believe that Mark Zuckerberg donated $400 million into politics in 2022, which is quite a lot, to say the least. Mr. Bicklesworth said, quote, look at the Google AI made, and it was Netflix, Mark Zuckerberg, and the race has been swapped for African American. So here, Democrat Media TM says, quote, X needs to move its headquarters from San Francisco ASAP. And it's accompanied by a parking sign. It says, no one has ever done more harm America than Democrats. We got 3.5 thousand likes. Corn Pop says, also don't forget the deep state. And yeah, that shows every department. It says percentage of donations from federal employees going to Clinton by agency. So let's see here. When was this? As in 2016. And yeah, pretty much every U.S. department. The lowest percentage is the defense. That got 84%. Pretty much everything else is in the low and high 90s. Agriculture. The agriculture department, so people who worked in the agricultural department donated to her 99.4%. Same with the labor department, which I guess, yes, if you're in the labor department, you want lots of money for doing the work. 99.4%. The State Department, 99%. Justice, 97%. Jeez Louise. Definitely seems all biased. Let's see here. Ryan Tyler says, quote, this is why now more than ever we need unbiased cell phones. We have X for information, but we need an unbiased search engine and phones not run by commies like Apple or Google, unquote, getting 247 likes. Which, yeah, that's important. I wonder who could actually do a startup to compete with them. Because again, there's probably also issues with the telecom carriers as well. But it says Apple and Google, they do control the OS. I mean, no one really owns a BlackBerry anymore, unfortunately. If you see a BlackBerry nowadays, it's a simple licensing agreement. It actually uses the Android, which again, Google owns the Android platform or the operating system for that cell phone category. So the real OG BlackBerry, they had their own operating system. Those are unfortunately long gone. Well, they don't work anymore. They're not around in actual usage. Let's see. Gman68 says, quote, it's simple. We deregulated the phone industry in the 90s. Why not break up Google? It's a monopoly. Or if my favorite inventor, tech mastermind Elon Musk could invent a phone and search engine, game over. Thanks for all you do, Elon Musk, getting 643 likes, which I don't think is possible to break up Google. Because again, I guess the major thing people are concerned about is the equal access to all information and not having the information fed in a way in which it obfuscates the truth or only gives you one particular set of data given on political ideologies. And even if you were to try to have Google sell off AdSense, which is their advertising arm, which fuels in how you interact with things like YouTube, how would you go around? I mean, you have the Google search engine, but again, I'm not sure I don't know how you go around breaking up Google, or even if it's technologically possible. I mean, granted, I'm sure every company has micro-segmentation with certain categories of products, but with Google, it's just so all-encompassing, and they have thousands of pet projects that go nowhere. They're notorious for starting a project and then abandoning it. I mean, just like Google Fiber, Strata, and a bunch of other things. But yeah, that'd be interesting. I don't think let me know in the comments, do you think it's possible for Google to be technologically broken up? And if so, do you think the government would ever have the appetite to do so? It's been quite some time since the government has done anything to break up a company in that methodology. I mean, telecom was probably the biggest one. Standard Oil back in the day was another one of the largest monopoly breakups. Although ironically, that actually helped Rockefeller become one of the richest men on the planet, because while they broke up his company, he was given equity in all the other ones, and of course they all did pretty well. So kind of funny and ironic how that broke it out. Burt Macklin says, quote, sounds like those companies aren't very good at diversity. They demand of others, unquote, getting 817 likes, which, yes, 110% true. No one ever talks, or very few people talk about the importance of diversity of thought, which, again, depending on your situation, what kind of business you're doing, you really do need to have a myriad of ideas and have the best ideas through the surface. Scrolling down. Mahatma, it's a parody of Gandhi account, says, why isn't anyone talking about this? And it's Biden grabbing a girl by her arm inappropriately, and then sniffing her, getting 1,000 likes. Just quite a few, to say the least. A lot of people are doing the memes of George Orwell's book, 1984, getting 451 likes, and another book everyone should read, but Granted, they don't read good books in many public schools. They're reading just modern garbage, pushing ideology and not actual good, solid American values and philosophical ideals that to debate. But nevertheless, the right guy says, quote, X is probably still a major leftist workforce based on how many times I've been locked out for speaking the truth, unquote, getting 402 likes, which, again, I'm sure a fair amount of people who are ideologically on the left are part of X Twitter, but I think he's gotten rid of a lot of them. And again, in terms of free speech, Elon, I would argue, is certainly doing the best because he allowed Alex Jones to get back on the platform, which, say what you want about Alex Jones, he's certainly very bombastic and entertaining. It's quite concerning when he is often, many times, and you have to put another dollar into the Alex Jones's right jar. But that's a pertinent, to me, I think that's a perfect litmus test to see, does someone really agree or believe in free speech? Which, again, a wise man once said, might not agree with what you're saying, but I'll fight to the death for your right to say it, which is what all Americans, or many Americans, used to believe. Unfortunately, that's becoming more and more rare. And Alex Jones is a perfect example. If you meet someone you want to know, do they truly believe in free speech? Ask them, do you think Alex Jones deserves to have a voice? Does he deserve to be on social media? And if they say yes, they're a true American. They believe in free speech and human rights. If not, well, subsequently, I'd say they're perhaps mentally vacuous or just immoral and not believing everyone has the God-given gift, and many would argue the God-given right, that is free speech. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, I'm trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you could click that button, I'd really appreciate it. Also, leaving a thumbs up, thumbs down, or even just a quick comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.